Here's a 90-day plan to start learning guitar. Let's get into it. Now, throughout this example, I'm going to use an acoustic guitar. It doesn't matter if it's an acoustic or an electric. This is just generally for beginners who are looking to learn guitar. Now, who am I? Well, I'm Andrew Segan, founder of Acoustic.com, one of the world's leading guitar schools with over 100,000 students. Now, I'm going to split this up into 3 different parts. Part 1 is going to be days 0 to 30. Part 2 is going to be days 30 to 60. And then the last part, you guessed it, 60 to 90. All right, let's get right into it with part 1. Now, over the first 30 days, we're going to be focusing on the foundation. Now, this is about posture, timing, how to hold a pick or finger pick, whatever you are interested in. And you're going to focus on 5 key chords over these 30 days. That's all you're going to do, 5 chords over 30 days. We're not going to learn all our major and minor shapes. We're just going to focus on only 5. Now, when it comes to your left and right hand, it's pretty much the same for electric and acoustic. The only difference is when it comes to finger picking. Your left hand, there are a couple things to keep in mind. The first, always making sure your fingertips are curled, your thumbs behind the neck. We're just going to go over this quick, by the way, because I want to get into it. I want to make this lesson as impactful as possible. And with your right hand, the main thing is that you're above the sound hole on the guitar, making sure your wrist isn't flat like that. All right, let's talk about the 5 chords that I recommend learning over these 30 days. Now, you can come back to this video whenever you want, and I'm going to show you some easy way to play these chords as well. Now, if you want to start playing songs today, I'm going to show you the first 3 chords, and then the last 2 chords in the 5 chords we're learning are a little more difficult. You don't need to learn them today. All right, so the first chord is our G chord. Now, to play a G chord, your second finger goes to the 3rd fret of the 6th string. Your first finger goes to the 2nd fret of the 5th. And then your 3rd finger goes to the 3rd fret of the 1st. If this is confusing, if you're already saying, Andrew, what the hell are you doing? How am I going to play this if I've never played guitar before? I want you to do this easy tip, which is take your 3rd finger off. And then this is just an easier version of the G chord. The only catch with this is you can only strum the bottom strings. Now, with our strumming, the main thing to think about with your strumming is it's a flick. A lot of people, when they first start, strumming on guitar, they're always going down and up, down and up. It's just a flick. So that's the first chord we are going to learn. Now, the next chord is our C chord. I'm going to show you the full way to play it, and then I'll show you the easier way to play it. Full way, first finger goes to the 1st fret of the 2nd string, second finger, 2nd fret of the 4th string, and our 3rd finger goes to the 3rd fret of the 5th. Now, a lot of students, what they'll do is they'll flatten their fingers. It's going to sound really bad. The main thing when it comes to any of these chords you learn over the first 30 days, you're curling the fingertip. And I'm going to show you a tip that I give to my students who struggle to play these chords. And that is you need to think about where you're actually pressing on the guitar fret. What a lot of people will do is they'll place down, for example, their C major chord, but their fingers will be almost on the inner edge of the string. Don't want to do that. You want to make sure you're on the outer edge of the string. And the reason for that is it's going to give you more room to curl your fingertip so you're not stopping the other strings. So this is our C major chord. Another way to play it is without our first finger if you just strum the bottom couple strings. So hypothetically, you could have your G chord like this, and then your C chord could just be moving this all up one string. So you have your G, and then your C. All right, the next one is our D major chord. Now, unfortunately, there's no kind of easy ways to play this chord, but what you're gonna do is put your first finger on the 1st fret of the 3rd string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd, and then your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st. Now, when you're strumming this chord, you wanna make sure that you're strumming 4 strings down. A lot of people strum all 6, you don't wanna do that, 4 strings down. All right, so those are our 3 chords. Now, I'd actually recommend just learning songs with these chords to start. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, we live in a day and age where you could go on ChatGPT and literally ask, hey, name me 10 songs that use G, C, and D. That'll probably be the easiest way. Now, a lot of basic songs actually just use our G, C, and D chord. And another chord that you'll find is our E minor and our A minor. So I'm going to go over those chords now as well. So after you've gone through those chords, you've understood them, the next chord you need to learn over these 30 days is your E minor. To play your E minor chord, your 2nd finger goes to the 2nd fret of the 5th, and your 3rd finger goes to the 2nd fret of the 4th. Okay, and then after that, the last one is our A minor chord. to make an A minor chord from our E minor, what you do is you just take these two fingers, shift them up one string, and then your first finger goes down to the first fret, the second string. So you have your E minor, then your A minor. Now, we won't go over, all of the chords and everything. I kind of want to just give you a plan for today. So what I recommend doing is learning those chords. And then from there, these first 30 days, you just want to focus on these beginner guitar songs. Now, why did I give you these chords? And how do I know that by learning these chords, you're going to be able to play easy songs out there? Well, it's because these chords a lot of times are found in song sheets because they like to put everything in the key of C a lot of times. So by learning these chords, you have your C, your G. You're going to be able to find a lot of songs with these chords. So you learn these chords over the first 30 days and you just go out there and start learning basic songs. You can go out there and learn, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Horse with No Name, all these songs that are going to use these chords. All right, over the next 30 days, here is when you're going to start challenging yourself a little more. And depending on whatever your goals are, I'm going to give you a couple different plans that you can choose. The first is if you want to be a strumming guitarist, this is where you go out there and start trying to learn more difficult chords, such as bar chords. Now, I wouldn't recommend going out there and learning, your full bar chords first. Over these next 30 days, you want to learn songs that use, for example, the F chord. Now, this is a half bar chord. Now, what is a bar chord? That's when you take your finger and it actually goes down on multiple strings at the same time. So our F bar chord, for example, is our first finger on the first fret of the first and second strings. Now, the main thing with bar chords is you want to make sure your finger's horizontally flat. Then your second finger goes down to the second fret of the third, and your third finger goes down to the third fret of the fourth. So for example, this is an F bar chord. You go out there and learn songs like that. Now, if you are interested in learning to fingerpick on guitar, this is where I'd recommend starting to learn fingerpicking songs. I'd recommend learning, basic fingerpicking songs, like there's Everybody Hurts by Rem. That's a great, very beginner basic one where all you're doing is, going up and down with your fingers. I'd recommend learning songs like that, and then if you want to do other styles like fingerstyle, Travis picking, then you go out there and learn that after, but you want to make sure you already have some skill before you do that. So days 1 to 30, you just want to learn some basic guitar songs, some basic chords, and days 30 to 60, that's where you start challenging yourself with bar chords. You start challenging yourself with fingerpicking if that's what you're interested in. Now, over these 30 days, I'd recommend picking at least 4 or 5 full songs to learn. The first 30 days, it's okay if you just learn a bit in a piece of a song. You don't need to learn a full song, but over days 30 to 60, I'd recommend trying to learn full songs. Now, I wouldn't recommend choosing songs that are crazy and they switch out a lot of times and, the chords change and you have your bridge, your verse, just picking basic songs that can repeat. Now, days 61 to 90 are going to be where you have to challenge yourself even more. This is where you'll start to learn songs that change up. So you're not just learning songs that have, one chord progression that repeat, but you're learning songs that, switch up a lot. And depending on whatever style you're learning, it can be a little different. For example, this is where you could, if you're trying to learn to fingerpick, you could learn a more difficult Travis picking song. Or if you're trying to learn lead guitar, maybe this is where you try to attempt your first beginner solo. Something very, very, very simple because, it's still only 60 days. So you want to make sure you're challenging yourself. And what I'd recommend doing is have a beginner song lined up for this period. It can only be one song over those 30 days. Pick something you really enjoy, and that's going to be your challenge for days 60 to 90. Now, I want to go over some mistakes to avoid when you're going through this plan. The first is you want to make sure you're really thinking about your position and your posture as you are learning these songs. I mentioned this in one of my other videos, but you want to make sure that you're thinking about your position as you're starting to learn guitar. A couple, basic tips, thumb behind the neck, fingertips curled. With your right hand, you want to make sure you're always above the sound hole, you're not down or anything like that. By thinking about this as you first start learning guitar, it's going to help you out years and years to come. So make sure you're thinking about your guitar position. Another thing to think about is trying to learn full songs. Over these 90 days, do not focus on playing bits and pieces or one little bit of piece of this song, one bit of piece of this song. If a song is too difficult, don't attempt learning it. Only attempt to learn a song you think you can actually learn all the way through. And this is good because it's going to also get you in the habit of learning full songs. A lot of people get in the habit of learning bits and pieces. So another thing you want to do is make sure that you are learning full songs no matter how easy it is over these 90 days. Now, I want to give you some bad news, and that is to expect to maybe be a little, shot down during this process, be in a rut sometimes. Because when you're first starting to learn guitar, it's tricky, it's frustrating, but you need to make sure as you're starting, you follow the right approach. Because I've seen guitarists out there, it's a little sad sometimes. They've been playing years and years and years, and they still can't play basic chord, a basic song. But then there's other guitarists out there who play for 20 days and they can play a song. So why is it that some guitarists progress and some don't? Well, it has to do with the approach you're taking. It has to do with your practice session. And it also has to do with how effective you are trying to play guitar. Because some people, what they'll do is, I want to learn guitar, I want to learn a song. They'll place a chord down, it sounds like this, and then they'll stop playing. You want to make sure that you push through it. You figure out the cause of why a note isn't sounding good. If a chord doesn't sound good, a note doesn't sound good, there's always a reason. It's not just not going to sound good for no reason. There's always going to be a reason, whether it's in your left or your right hand. So expect you're going to get in ruts, expect things aren't going to sound good, but know that there is always a solution. Okay, and one other thing I want you to do is celebrate your small wins. If you learn a song, don't be afraid to, post a video about it on Facebook to your buddies or whatever. Even if it's, basic, and even if you're just starting to learn guitar, it might not be the craziest song in the world, post it out there. Who cares? Even if it doesn't sound 100% good, post it, celebrate those small wins. There's always going to be some 6-year-old kid out there who can play, the craziest Bach song or the craziest song in the world. Be happy with what you can play. Even if you're 60, 70 and you're just starting to learn guitar, it doesn't matter what other people can do because there's always going to be someone who is 10 times better. You can find people out there who are, 40, 50 times better than anyone, including me, including someone who's been playing 30 years because there's just anomalies out there. Now, if you want help throughout these 90 days, I want you to check out the comments for my program, Guitar in 20 Days. Now, this is a program that I recommend, spreading out a lot longer than 20 days, but it can help you throughout this process. You could even go through this and then try the 90-day plan after. Now, the way we teach you inside Guitar in 20 Days is through song-based learning. So you slowly learn songs, whether that's tab or sheet music. Most students prefer to learn with tab. You slowly learn songs while actually learning about different guitar techniques. This is great because at the end of the program, you'll have songs you can play confidently to your family and friends. It's not just about, Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever. You're learning actual fun songs. So to get a special discount on Guitar in 20 Days, I want you to check out the comments. If not, make your own 90-day plan. You can have some fun with it. You can change it around a little bit and make sure to subscribe below